What's up, my Degens? What's going on? We got Degen special going on right now. We are jumping in. I did not put this out in the ether at all. I didn't tell anybody about it. I'm just doing it, and I'm hoping you guys are tuned into it right now. But we're talking about buying before the breakouts. We're talking about players that you should be buying right now. Because you're probably not going to get the price that you're about to get. Like, as far as, what you can buy for them right now is not going to be what you're going to buy in a month's time, a year's time, whatever the timeline might be. It's probably going to, I don't know. I mean, the idea in Dynasty is to get the edge. You want to get the edge in not just Dynasty and in fantasy as a whole. Like, you have an idea of how a player is going to do. And the value that you have on a player isn't the value that other people have on a player. So I think that, how you stand on business and how you go about your, I guess, dynasty buying and stuff is really important. Trusting the people that you trust and going through a process that only you have. And that's what really buying before the breakout is. We're weathermen at this point. We have to kind of forecast it and hope that we hit. Idea is to have a hit rate higher than the rate that you miss. So, with that in mind, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Mr. MadDog. What's up, dog? How you doing?
What's up, man? Happy to be doing this special on midday Thursday, and yeah, man, I'm good. I wanna talk about these guys while their value is still kind of suppressed.
Yeah, suppressed value can happen, no matter what. Obviously, some players that just haven't been on the field yet, have bad quarterback play, injuries, whatever it is. There's always this, I guess, stigma attached to these players where they're never going to be anything more than they are. And more so in Dynasty than anything else, these people have redraft brain. They have the idea that if the player doesn't hit X amount of years, then they're just not going to do it. They're not going to be successful in fantasy football. So a lot of people will throw away these guys that we're about to talk about. I think the first couple that we do talk about have a lot of value, but that's not to say they can't be buys before the breakouts, because ultimately we think that they're going to hit way higher than their value is currently. So, there's subjectiveness here when we're talking about buying before the breakout, but Dane, hit me with the first guy that's on our list right now.
Yeah, so my first player that I want to talk about is JJ McCarthy. Obviously, we didn't see him in his rookie season because of a torn meniscus, and that doesn't really worry me as much as it would have been if it was a major ligament. He goes to a very insulated landing spot with the Vikings, where he has, probably one of the best offensive minds in the league in Kevin O'Connell. He has three great weapons that are Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. So I think right now where we're seeing him as a fifth round startup pick is too low. Like I think, he can step in and easily be a QB1 this year.
Yeah. And we're talking about somebody that, did not produce extreme high levels of like fantasy points, I guess, when you're talking about college football, for anybody that played in CFB or anything that has to do with Devy, because, he didn't have to. He was in a legitimate situation with Harbaugh where, he didn't have to throw a lot. He didn't have to make these monster plays, but that's not to say that JJ doesn't have the arm, doesn't have the ability to make these plays. I think, within the system, he played to what the system needed. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is, like, JJ could have easily been an air raid offense and probably would have been fairly successful. But ultimately it's not what they needed. They were running the ball with Blake Corum and they had an incredible offensive scheme. Like, it's just like, would Justin Herbert succeed more in fantasy without Harbaugh? Maybe, but like, they build this ecosystem where, obviously you are doing what you need to do, and it makes the team much more successful, and it might limit the actual production of a quarterback. And we see it day in and day out, like especially JJ in the offseason last year when he was hands down above Darnold, and he was beating him out in camp, and everyone saw JJ as a lock to be the starter. And we saw what Darnold did, and we saw how successful Darnold was. The fact that he was already beating out Darnold and was doing it handedly, and then had extremely successful preseason games. And not to say that you put any stock in these preseason games, but I think you can put at least more confidence in this guy when we're talking about somebody that hasn't seen the field before than you can with somebody that's just a brand new rookie off the street. Because we saw the offseason, we saw him beat out Darnold, we saw what Darnold did. We see this system that is honestly almost foolproof. I mean, it is at least looked like that last year, where we're talking about Darnold getting a massive bag for just 1 year of production. And it's like, do I think Darnold just drastically improved his game? No, but I think the system will elevate and improve any quarterback, regardless of like how. I mean, they have to make decisions. They have to get the ball out fast, but like really, you're talking about somebody that can be a game manager and be an extremely successful fantasy quarterback in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you talked about him in Michigan, because that is kind of a more professional program in the college ranks. So it seems like it's going to be a seamless transition for me. We've seen quarterbacks of the past go into that Viking system under Kevin O'Connell, and they do succeed. And I think that JJ is easily more talented than anybody that has succeeded there. One question I had for you is, do you think that we're going to see any bit of a transition period where you think JJ maybe has their training wheels on and they keep their pace of play to that 62 and a half plays per game? Or do you think it's just full send off the rip? Let's see what this kid's got.
I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think, you have to temper the expectations of any new quarterback in the league. You have to understand that there is going to be some transitional time, somebody that is just getting used to the speed of the game. And the reality is you can practice all you want. You can do preseason games all you want, but once you're in it, and once that, like that first snap hits, it becomes a reality. If you've played any sports in college, it almost takes your breath away. It's very hard to get used to the situation, regardless of how much preparation you've had. And I think that's going to go away pretty fast with JJ, especially being in big games and obviously going to the Natty last year and everything. We see these guys that have played on the big stage. They're a little more prepared to produce in college or in the NFL, excuse me. And I think that you're going to see that with JJ, but don't be surprised if we do see a heavy dose of short passes, intermediate passes. I think there's going to be definitely some aired out balls. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that JJ's fully capable of airing it out, and I think they're probably going to test some defenses that way. But I would expect some conservative games first off, and then, as time goes on, as defenses start to understand him a little bit more, I think they have to change up. And any good coach and any good quarterback's going to understand you don't show your entire hands in the first half of the season, or you become CJ Stroud and become a red book, essentially somebody that you can tell every play that they're going to call. And CJ Stroud's situation was not by any means all of his fault, but like when you look at it, you can see that the defenses understand his game second year, and they could anticipate it a little more. They can see it. You do have to change up a little bit, and I think the Vikings coaching staff understands that you're probably going to ease into the playbook. You're probably going to, make this game very digestible to start.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's levels to it, right? They're going to knock the rust off. They're going to let them get into a rhythm and get comfortable, and then you're going to see that offense open right up. Questions for you here. Pulled up some startup ADP. So JJ McCarthy goes 50th overall, surrounded by Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, Quinshon Judkins, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. Do you have any of those guys ahead of JJ McCarthy?
I mean, you can make a case for Brock Purdy year one. You could probably say that he's going to produce more in fantasy, but it's extremely close. And we're talking about Dynasty ADP. I think I want JJ McCarthy pretty easily, to be honest. I think JJ's got the mobility. He has the weapons. He's in a situation where he doesn't have to do much, man. You know what I mean? Like, he can get the ball in JJ's hands, and then obviously Addison's out there, Hawkinson. There's going to be somebody open constantly in this offense. And I think that we're talking about a team that's going to complete a lot of passes, and he doesn't have to be extremely good. I think JJ is good, but I think you could put just about anybody in this situation in the NFL, and they could probably produce decent fantasy points. And that's what I love about this situation. I like JJ by himself. I would like him on the Dolphins. I would like him on a couple different teams, but ultimately, I think this is just the perfect scenario that you want, the perfect situation. The ecosystem's just right. And I can't, like, sometimes you have to adjust, and that's people that maybe not have liked JJ in college, but now it's like, dude, he's in such a good situation, and he would have to be super inefficient and really just like fall apart at the seams to not succeed in the situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. And quickly, I want to throw some trades at you. JJ McCarthy or a random 25-1.
Oh, I mean, JJ McCarthy. I think you're talking about random ones, and if you need a quarterback in any situation, I think that you have to have a surefire package at that point. You know, like, you cannot move off of guys in super flex leagues for question marks at this point. Like, you either have to insulate a trade or you are standing pat, because, you know, I need a quarterback back, or I need the 99% chance that I'm going to look at somebody at upper echelon. And even then it's really tough, you know, because you could have traded JJ McCarthy for a random first this year. And outside of, I mean, you can have the conversation Cam Ward or JJ McCarthy, but, you know, ultimately I think you probably would have regret that come this year for sure.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little growing pains talking about Cam Ward there. Next trade I have for you, JJ McCarthy, a 26th third, or Caleb Williams. So that's a more interesting one, because the Bears really went and made some offseason changes where there's hope for Caleb, and he could have easily been on this video as well.
Yeah, and I think I'll probably take Caleb Williams there. And I don't think everything that he did last year was bad. I think that he showed a lot of promise. He showed that he could be an NFL caliber quarterback. The Bears are the Bears. The situation's never good. Do I believe in the Viking system a lot more than the Bears system? Absolutely. I think that Ben Johnson over there does change that a little bit. I think that he's going to put Caleb in the best situation possible. You know, I think Caleb Williams just has the value. I think he's so much more valuable than JJ McCarthy right now. And really, you know, even if you think JJ and Caleb Williams are going to produce at a similar level, you can't really just say, oh, I'm going to just trade, you know, Caleb Williams straight up for JJ McCarthy. I think that you probably need to add, I mean, at this point, I think you need to add a first to JJ for Caleb Williams. And, you know, not to say I would do that, but I think that's probably what it's going to take for me to say, okay, this is what, you know, I want for Caleb Williams, because he's going in the second round and JJ's still looking at 6th round ADP.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's right. Caleb, I think definitely has more rushing upside to him. I will say, however, I think JJ McCarthy has more insulation, not just because of that missed year. We have to see what Ben Johnson's going to do as his first year as a head coach, but I think I'm leaning Caleb on that side as well. On to the next receiver that I want to talk about here. He seems like he's been making the Twitter waves lately, so I thought it'd be a fun one to bring up for you. That's Rashee Rice. So why I want to go and buy Rashee Rice is I think that 3-game sample size, I'm all in off of it. You know, that was elite production, you know, north of 2.5 yards per route run. He's getting targeted at almost 30% of his routes. It's a 90% success rate against zone. Tell me what you think about Rashee Rice.
It's so funny, man. I let you do the show sheet today, and I haven't really seen any of these players, so I don't know who I'm talking about today for the most part. But I do love Rashee Rice. I do love the fact that, okay, let me just break this down for a second. You're talking about a team that built them. They went in the last year, the offseason, with the idea that Rashee Rice was fine, okay, that he was a part of this offense. They drafted Worthy with the idea that they were going to work together. Like Rice and Worthy were going to be on the same team on the field at the same time. And they have somewhat similar, but almost completely different skill sets when we're talking about Worthy being the field stretcher, Worthy being the guy that's going to open up. He's going to push the defenses back. He's going to go to the second level. He's really going to pull the defense apart a little bit. And then Rashee Rice is going to work in the middle. He's going to be that guy. Like, so it's a really like an Amon-Ra St. Brown, JMO situation. You know, if we're going to totally not to say those players are similar at all, but like if you want to look at a team, this is what people love to hear. They want to hear, okay, what does it remind you of? And this is exactly what it reminds me of. You know, where Rashee Rice is going to be the Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to work in the middle. He's going to be kind of that catch-all guy. You could have said that with a healthy Kelsey and a Kelsey that was 5 years younger, this probably wouldn't work out very well. But now, when we're talking about Kelsey at the twilight of his career, somebody that probably isn't going to be playing football next year, Rashee Rice is the future, and he's going to be the guy that is going to be the Kelsey. You know, like they're eventually going to have to move on to somebody that isn't going to be a top echelon tight end unless it gets super lucky in this year's draft. And, you know, man, there's a couple guys that I would love. Like I just dropped a short on a guy that I love. If you guys aren't following us, go over to the Player Profiler Now page and look at some shorts that I dropped. But yeah, I mean, it really, he is going to be somebody that is going to be a mainstay part of this offense. He was drafted for this reason. I think he was ultimately drafted to replace the Kelsey role, to replace the guy that's in the middle. That's going to be, you know, the safety blanket, and he's probably going to be a PPR monster. I think, you know, Worthy is going to be, he's going to get his money, but it's going to be more on like these long, deep go balls, you know, like he's going to be definitely successful because Rice is going to pull a lot of the defensive pressure in the middle. This team is finally going to be humming. And I predict this offense to finally go back to its roots originally with Tyreek Hill, where Xavier Worthy is going to be in that Tyreek Hill role, where he's going to be out there, and Rice is going to be the old school Kelsey, where he's getting his money in the middle. He's going to be working on the outside, like working out of the slot, doing different things where, you know, Mahomes doesn't have to stay in the pocket for too long, and he can get off these quick balls and stuff. And it's just like the perfect scenario. I think they're transitioning their offense very well. You know, like I think we're talking about, yeah, I mean, like I said, Kelsey's probably not going to be there. So I think you got to go buy Rashee Rice, even though his ADP and his price has definitely inflated a little bit. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in Rice and Worthy working together on the field. You are muted, brother.
Sorry, my kid came down, kind of in a panic there. So I think my opinion aligns with yours. I think the Amon-Ra JMO comparison is great. I think that we're going to see a changing in the guard in a pass-happy offense with an elite quarterback who probably wants to get back to throwing the ball. They didn't really do much to address or upgrade that running game. So all signs to me point to the Chiefs are going to be coming out, and they're going to be airing that out. A couple trades I got for you. Again, Rashee Rice for a random 25-1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 25-1. What are we talking about? How can random can a 25-1 be right now? So we're talking about, or is it 26-1? A random 25-1 right now, your league is not active. I think that you're in trouble.
Hey, I'm doing a home draft right now.
You are? That's
we
insane.
are, yeah.
There's no reason to be doing dynasty rookie drafts right now.
I know.
I mean, I'm taking Rashee Rice outside. I think when it get to like, I mean, Ibuka might, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about long-term dynasty value. I think Ibuka and Rice might be pretty close. But I cannot do randomness. I cannot just roll the dice when it comes to players. I won't do it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think if it's early, that's a question. If it's mid, I'm probably taking Rice because, like I said, I'm all in on what I saw last season and at the end of his rookie season. Late, you're absolutely taking Rice on that, and
I just got
you're
Rice
locked.
for Olave in a 26 second. So, I mean, if you want to go buy Rice right now, I think that, people are scared. People are nervous about, his injury, his court stuff, all that thing, all the things that you probably would have called silly last year, because if you're in on BTJ this year, you were in on Rice last year. You were in on him at ADP. You know what I mean? Rice was considered the value of BTJ right now. And that's just what it is. And then, obviously the court stuff occurred and the injury happened and people kind of faded out on him a little bit. But I mean, I'm all in on that price for sure.
I hear you. I went and acquired Rice in a startup that I had a month ago, and I'd love to hear your facts on it. It was a startup gone bad. I usually never try to go all in. I tried it and I crashed and burned miserably, so I had to do some recovery there. I traded the 101 and I ended up getting Travion and Rice, which I felt filled out my roster. I think I'm happy with that. I get a solid wide receiver to pair with Brian Thomas Jr., who we talked about. I think the production is going to be there for Travion Henderson, and by the time that team is ready to compete, I think I'm going to have 3 really nice pieces there.
Yeah, I mean, so you got Rice and Travion Henderson, and then you traded Genty. Yeah, I like that. I like that trade. I like that trade all day. So you're talking about going back to the 106 essentially with Rashee Rice. I mean, I think Rashee Rice is more valuable than that pick jump for sure. I think that's an easy tap as far as, Travion Henderson is my RB2 of this class. So you're getting the RB2 of the class plus, ideally somebody that can fill in a wide receiver 1 role at some point in your roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that hopefully turns that team around because it definitely needs it. Moving on to my third player here, another guy I'm really high on. I think that he's shown production in the past is Kenneth Walker. I'm over the moon with a guy like him, with Kubiak coming in and going to be running that outside zone scheme. Kenneth Walker showed that he was already efficient at that with his past coaches. It's a 13% or 13% better efficiency rate than any other run that he does end up taking. So let me hear your thoughts on Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I mean, Kenneth Walker, when healthy, is probably the most explosive running back or close to it in the NFL. I think that he has some of the best contact balance I've ever seen. He runs violently at times. He absolutely would be somebody that I would be 1000% in on constantly when it comes to somebody at that value. I just think that he is never going to play a complete season, and you have to be almost okay with that. You have to understand that he is probably going to be banged up and he's probably going to miss some games. And I don't know if it's just the way his body is or if it's because of the way he plays, the style that he plays, or just like, generally, like he had a crazy workload in college, and it might just be, the reality of sometimes the workload catches up to your body, and it is tough to sustain that with your joints and everything. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's the knee injuries, right? Like he's always got
a knee, and it always seems like it's core as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's all related, like once you have a knee or a core, like it radiates down to your body, like if you're weak in your core, everything is rocked, bro. You absolutely have lower back pain, and then it radiates to your legs, and then it's like in your heel, and it's everywhere. So, I mean, he's tough, dude. Like, I don't know if I love Kenneth Walker or if I want to sell Kenneth Walker. I can't choose a side because sometimes on certain rosters, I want Kenneth Walker as my RB2. I have the ability to hold him because of the roster that I built. I think Kenneth Walker is a volatile RB2 on some rosters, and then he's a locked in guy that you can have because you have depth. I think I want Kenneth Walker on teams where I have the depth, where I have guys that I can plug and play, but more so shallow rosters. It's really hard to be like, okay, I want Kenneth Walker. I need more durability than that. But if we're talking about somebody that is super productive when they're on the field and they have the ability to, carry a fantasy team, Kenneth Walker is locked in. You know what I mean? He's somebody that, he is super efficient with his touches. He has, explosiveness. He can run it off and he can make a big play whenever. It's just kind of, he's like a walking, like he reminds me of a prime J.K. Dobbins when J.K. Dobbins was in college. I think that he is somebody that has that crazy breakaway speed, but I don't know how much the injuries come into play. We're talking about somebody that is essentially in a new offensive scheme with new coaches and in a contract year. So if Kenneth Walker was to have his massive year, this is the year to have it. This is the year that I want to bet on Kenneth Walker. All right. So all the years that I've been kind of burned by Kenneth Walker, like I can get behind him at a certain price. Like I've drafted him a few times in startups in the 7th round, for example.
Yeah, that's insane.
And in Dynasty, that's such an easy tap. If we're talking about he's going in the range of where, I don't know. Like, do you want Kenneth Walker or James Cook right now?
It's Walker for me. I think massive touchdown regression is coming for James Cook. I just like the overall environment that Kenneth Walker is going to be in this year.
Yeah. So Kenneth Walker, correct me if I'm wrong, he's got a option to be a free agent next year.
That's right. I don't think Seahawks have picked that up yet.
Yeah. So essentially he has to be picked up before. Is it before the season starts or before the season ends? I think it's before the season ends. So he's got some time to get this contract picked up. But at the moment, he's a free agent.
Yeah, that's right. So he's playing for a new contract. Other teams, I'm sure somebody is going to go and pick him up, but let's hear this.
We got a big trade from Ryan right here. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but let's just send it, baby. We got a Would You Sudden Josh Allen at 27 first for Bijan and 326 first. Oh, no. I think I'm good with what the hell though? Like Bijan and 326 first. In a 10 team, I want Josh Allen. I think that I don't feel good about Dak, Goff, and that's not an awful quarterback room. I think I still want Josh Allen.
It's tough because in a 10-team league, that's what both my home leagues are. And you can get by with the quarterbacks that are Dak and Goff. That 27 first, there's all the hype over those right now. It depends what you're starting too. Like if
I don't think, all right, so let's just take out, okay, so there's something on your roster that doesn't make sense. Why does he want your 27 first? Like, does he see you as being an aged out roster? Is that 27 first possibly higher up on the draft board projection wise? If you're sending Josh Allen for Bijan and 626 first, that's kind of like committing to a rebuild, I think, at this point. Well, I mean, Bijan could easily net you a decent amount of points, but I don't know, man. Does this team makes it? The more I look at it, I kind of like it, but also don't at the same time.
I do, but I think in a 10-team league, there is a lot of value that is stashed on your bench in the quarterback position. So I'm kind of with you where I think that there are going to be some holes in that roster, even if it is a 10-team start 8, to have 326 first and Bijan, are you be acquiring that? Man, I honestly,
I don't like giving up the 27 first with Josh Allen. I mean,
yeah,
I think if you take off the first and you make it Bijan and 226 first, I might maybe do that straight up for Josh Allen. Because, all right, if you're taking 226 first, and then we have to, I mean, Bijan's worth 2 firsts by himself, right? So that's essentially 4 firsts for Josh Allen when it comes down to it, when you're breaking it down to the nitty gritty. And that's probably what I want for Josh Allen, if I'm just talking about, but you're going to insulate that with Bijan. There's got to be a little more context to these picks, though. These picks are late, they're early. Like, you have an idea of 26 firsts already just because of who's on those teams and what they're looking at. I think that, man, this team, this is spicy. I think I would do it if you take off the 27 first, and then you get Bijan and 226 first that look good. That you pick your 2 favorite picks of those, and I think I might do it. And you might be able to be pretty successful with Bijan, Dak, and Goff, or some combination of Dak, Goff, and Penix. And then you're looking at a pretty decent quarterback draft class next year. If one of these guys falters, it's a good class if you want a quarterback right now.
Yeah, man, I'm still staring at this rack in my brain because I think you have Dak and Goff and you go and make that trade. I'm with you. I really don't like moving that 27-1. But as for putting Bijan in as a starter, and then it's what you can do with those 326 firsts while you're still, getting value production from your quarterbacks. I think I go ahead and I make that trade in a smaller league like this.
Yeah, I mean, 10-team leagues, the value of players is wonky. You want the elite players. You want these players that, like quarterbacks are actually undervalued in 10-team leagues just because there's so many. You know what I mean? Like you all can have 2 quarterbacks, and there's still 10 viable quarterbacks on the waiver wire if you want to. So there's probably some quarterbacks on the waiver wire in a 10-team league that are starting this year. Like honestly, or everyone has like 4 quarterbacks that are like on fringe starters or starters. It's like there's no value in quarterbacks when everyone has 5 quarterbacks. That's tough.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it shows just on his roster right now who he has. The scarcity isn't there for a quarterback in a 10-team league. So I think I turned myself into taking Bijan in the 3 first and then building out your team from there.
Yeah. Just like, the 10-team, I really thought about it. And it's like in a 10-team, you can sell quarterbacks for undervalue. If you're talking about 12, 14-team league, that's a tougher decision. I think that you probably want to hold on to Josh Allen in a 14-team league for sure. Yeah. Let's go back to Kenneth Walker for a second, though. I think if Kenneth Walker doesn't stay healthy this year, do you think Kenneth Walker's on this team next year?
No. And I think Slashy brought up a good point that in the comments here that Walker was a 2nd-round pick. So there isn't even a team option for him.
Yeah. So he's essentially just a free agent, like an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a world where I actually brought this up where we're talking about Kenneth Walker walking. Or if Kenneth Walker's not healthy, I mean, Zach Charbonnet is going to be the RB1 on this team, but there's going to be some touches. There's going to be some options when we're talking about Damian Martinez, who I think would be the RB3 starting off the season. I don't know if there's a world where, if they go tap a running back again. They've been drafting a running back every year. Obviously, Damian Martinez, super late guy, but there's a question in the chat about Damian Martinez right now. There is definitely an option if Damian Martinez shows out this year and he's productive during the times that Kenneth Walker might be out, that they might say, hey, like, why don't we just run Zach Charbonnet as the one and let Kenneth Walker walk, and we'd have our built-in RB2 with Damian Martinez with ultimately no money on the books for this guy. He's a free running back. And a lot of teams in the NFL are doing that now. They're like waiting until the 7th, 8th round of drafts. So they're grabbing guys that are undrafted for their backfield because they don't want to pay running backs anymore, because it's a position that it doesn't net you ROI when it comes to long-term contracts. You don't put a 7-year contract on a running back, or, even a 5-year contract is spicy. You're not going to be able to live that out. People aren't doing that anymore. So why not just get a 1-year contract with a guy that is free and then kind of reassess your situation, especially if you have a good system that O-line's improving. I don't know. I mean, do I want Kenneth Walker at value just because Kenneth Walker could be on a new team next year? Kenneth Walker could be on a team that has a top 5 offensive line that, can protect him, that, he's in a situation where he's just running and he's in open lanes and he's eating up easy touches and stuff. Like, I'd buy Kenneth Walker right now just because he's probably going to be on a new team next year. And you might have to eat an injury rattled season this year, but who's to say he doesn't have a resurgence on a new team and a new offensive line with a new coaching scheme next year?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think Kenneth Walker really, like you said earlier, you don't want him as your, if you're going a hero RB build, you don't want him as your RB1, but as your RB2 that's going to put up production. You take the good with the bad when there are some injuries, but the points are going to be there when he's on the field for you. I did have a couple trades for you really quick since we were talking about values. Kenneth Walker or Jameson Williams?
That's probably team build for me. I think that you probably could say that these guys are equal in value when it comes to dynasty. And do you need a quarterback, or do you need a wide receiver? Do you need a running back? I think that, Jameson Williams is Jameson Williams. I think that he's probably going to improve on his season from last year, just because he is almost 2 years removed from major injury. And he is, finally kind of getting back to his game and the way that he plays and being comfortable. And the coaching scheme really has worked him in a little bit more and more as the season went on last year. I think I'm going to go Jameson Williams. I think at this point, that just feels like, you can probably look at somebody ascending where Kenneth Walker might descend before he ascends again.
Okay. One more for you, since he's in the same tier and they're relatively close in ADP and startup drafts. It's Walker or Zay Flowers?
I think I want, dude, I know this is going to sound crazy. I think I want Kenneth Walker, because Zay Flowers is on a team that is run first, a very pass suppressed offense, and we're talking about a team that, just signed Derrick Henry to another contract, and Lamar is not going anywhere. And not to say that Lamar can't run a pass first offense, but that's not what they're going to do. That's not what Harbaugh wants to do. That's not how they're going to be played out. And I think, Zay Flowers on a different offense, I love it, but I don't think Zay Flowers is ever going to be a 1,000-yard producer in that offense. I think he's going to hover in that frustrating range of like 800, 900 yards, maybe like 5 or 6 touchdowns. He's going to always be that like back end wide receiver 2, front end wide receiver 3 type of guy on your I guess on your dynasty team. And it sucks to say that, because I think Zay Flowers can be so much more.
Yeah, I think the talent is there with Zay Flowers, but the environment is what caps his ceiling for him. Like you said, they have Derrick Henry, they have Lamar Jackson, who can do it all. The team has shown the willingness that they will hyper target their tight ends, and we've seen, a little bit of an emergence of Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews was more touchdown dependent last year, but he was pretty banged up too. So do we maybe see a bit of a rebound for him? I think overall I would take Walker over Zay, just because I think Walker has an untapped ceiling and Zay is capped.
Yeah, it's a situation. I think on talent alone, I'm going to take Zay Flowers over Walker, but like, you can't just say, okay, it's a blanketed situation and talent is going to succeed no matter what. You can't do that anymore. I think that's kind of the line of thinking that a lot of people had in Dynasty. The talent's going to overcome the situation. It's not going to in Baltimore. Baltimore is going to run the ball. They're going to play smash mouth offense. They're essentially going to throw when they need to, but like, it's never going to be a throw first offense. He's never going to get 12 targets a game. We're never going to see a Zay Flowers, 200-yard game and have him be like, okay, he's breaking out. Like, I want it. Jameson Winston's got to be up in there. I don't know why I'm getting Williams still stuck in my brain, but you need like somebody that's just going to play huck ball, like someone's going to
You're
toss
right.
the ball 30 times a game. And Lamar, man, I would love to see that. I would love to see them change the system a little bit. I think it takes a Derrick Henry injury for them to just say, hey, we're throwing the ball more. And I'm not going to say that that's not possible. Like, hey, Derrick Henry is 31 years old at this point. Like, I mean, he's a vampire. He's definitely, probably playing another 4 years when it comes down to it. But I mean, crazier things have happened. Like I think a 31-year-old running back getting injured and they're going to have to throw it because who's the backup on that team right now?
Well,
I don't
it'd be Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, or Rasheen Ali would be a rotation there. And
it's ugly, man.
Yeah, it is. And another
ugly.
thing for Zay, like where he was touted as kind of the human joystick when he came into his draft year. And I'm sure he still possesses all of those skills, but where he should be getting targeted and you let that yak ability take forward, Lamar is just going to scramble and run for that play himself. So again, it kind of just makes Zay less important in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking only situationally right now. Offenses can change and you want to take guys. I'm like the person that says this the most often, I think, on these pods where it's like you want to take the talent because situations always change. But Lamar's not going anywhere. I don't think Lamar I think Lamar, if he doesn't retire on the Ravens, I'm going to be very upset. I think, I don't want to see Lamar on any other team. I don't think Harbaugh's going anywhere. Who else? Monken's over there. I think that offense is locked in for a couple of years, and then at that point in time, we're talking about maybe Kenneth Walker being on a new team and working behind a new offensive line and a new system. So, you're hoping next year changes for both of these guys, but I think you're going to get more fantasy points from Kenneth Walker, barring health for both of these guys.
Agreed. On to the last guy that I have for today. It's another one that seems like he's been hitting the Twitter streets and people are either in or he's out. An older player that always seems like there's constant turmoil on that team, whether it's pass catching options or if it's quarterback play, who's even going to be a starter for that team, and that's David Njoku. Let me hear your thoughts on Njoku.
Yeah, I love Njoku. I've always loved him. He's been my guy for like 3 years now, just because I like the athleticism. I like, his talent. I think that I always target hyper athletic tight ends that can be the first or second option on a team. I think Njoku is still the second option on this team. I think when we're talking about the team breakdown and we are looking at Judy, there's Tillman, there's Deontay Johnson. I think that when it comes down to his skill set, Njoku's still probably going to be the second option, especially like in a Joe Flacco offense where, you know what I mean? He's a very tight end friendly guy. I think that anybody, even a rookie quarterback coming in there, they're going to target the guy that's in the middle of the field. They're going to target the guy that's an easy throw. I think Njoku is always going to be open. I think that he's got that skill set as a tight end where he could probably be a wide receiver and be successful. Like he's just a built dude. Have you ever seen Njoku with his shirt off? Like, damn, dude. Like
that intro when he's walking in after he had that
jacked up, dude,
that accident with the
when
player.
he had the burn on his face and he's wearing the face mask. Like he's just got aura, man. He's got big time aura. So I think I want this guy on all my teams just for that. But honestly, dude, like he's on any other team. I think when we're talking about quarterback play, I think he would be a top 5 tight end in any situation. Like everyone would be like, all right, we got to get Njoku. Just because the Browns, just because they haven't had a quarterback, because, when Njoku's on, when he's playing and they do have a quarterback that can throw him, like he's top 5 in the NFL, hands down.
Yeah. In my notes, I had to put hyper athletics, quarterback safety blanket. And you're right. Whether it's Joe Flacco, whether it's going to be Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur gets a shot, or by some rare chance we get Kenny Pickett starting for that team, I think Njoku is going to be the constant for that team. Like you said, the amount of points that he's putting up year after year, it's been, He's been top 5 in points the past 2 seasons, and he's still getting drafted as a tight end 12. Like, what are we doing? It's like nobody cares. It's if I'm going to punt a position, I'll go and punt tight end. If I can't go and get Bowers and McBride, whatever. I'll wait until I can get Njoku, and I'll fill out the rest of my lineup. He's a guy that's been top 15 among all players in the NFL in pass catches all year, or in targets per game. Sorry. Behind Bowers and McBride, who are top 2 round startups, and Njoku's going all the way down in the 10th.
Yeah. I mean, it is tough. The tight end position, if we're talking about how you build a team, if you miss on the first 3-4 guys, you might as well just wait on it. You might as well just wait, and you can grab somebody like Tucker Kraft, or, even Njoku over there, or, there's so many guys that are in that 3rd, 4th tier that don't separate that much from the top tier. When you're talking about McBride and Bowers, and then even, I mean, who's behind him? Laporta? Like, it's like, even after the top 2, it's really tough to really break down your tight end rankings, because it's almost like a straight line. Like, all these guys are only separated by 5 or 6 points. And when it comes down to it, that seems like a lot, but when you're building and you have the opportunity to build up like an elite tight end or a wide receiver room or an elite running back room, and you fade out a guy like, when you're talking about going back end and getting somebody like Njoku, it's easy money, dude, because you still have the same floor, and it's like the ceiling isn't that far off when it comes down to it. And it's tough. It's tough, man, because like, it is the position that is the most puntable, and you can do it, especially even in tight end premium leagues. It's like the difference is so minuscule, like, I've been waiting and getting Kittle in like the 5th, 6th round at this point. And Amazing. It's insane. And you're talking about a guy that could be the top tight end in the league next year. And I think that there's a possibility of him finishing as the overall tight end 1 when it comes down to it, especially with that team makeup and team breakdown. But yeah, I think Njoku is faded because of his quarterback position. I think there's no other reason to fade a Cleveland tight end over there, just because I think that he fits the mold to really be that safety blanket for any quarterback in that team.
Yeah, that's one way I've broke it down too, is it's just that negative Brown stigma. Like, it makes no sense to me looking at ADP. How are Kyle Pitts and Dalton Kincaid going a round or 2 rounds ahead of him in startups? It makes no sense. I understand that it's kind of a flat line if you don't have the top guys, but Njoku's there in target, so he's going to give you that bonus. He's always open, and if he's getting those targets, he's going to bust one in for a touchdown. He's going to get you those spike weeks that you want, when the other guys that are going ahead of him don't seem to have that chance at all.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that every guy that we touched on, people have, I guess, like, really just a stigma one way or the other, whether it's JJ McCarthy, who, didn't produce at a high level in college, but, obviously we can chalk that up to the way the team breakdown was. And then Rashee Rice, obviously injury. And then we're talking about somebody that has some court stuff, and, they're scared that he's not going to be on the field. They're scared that he's not going to be able to produce fantasy points. Kenneth Walker, injury concerns. David Njoku is obviously situational stuff, not having a quarterback, really just like inconsistent team makeup in general. I mean, there's reasons to fade all these guys, but we're saying that these guys have the possibility of being so much more this year. Like, I think that these are all guys that I'm safe with, and I feel good having on my dynasty rosters. And I think that the community in general would probably give you a discount on all these guys. And we're talking about pretty easily. Like, I've bought Rice, I bought Njoku. I actually, before the draft, I got Njoku for Komet in a second. And that was a 26 second at that point. And I didn't care, because I knew that the Bears were going to get a tight end. I just knew that they were going to, like, Komet just felt like the most unsafe asset ever. So, I mean, in TEP, that just feels like a smash for me. But you want to end with anything? You got anything to tack on to any of these guys?
I just want to say it's what you said too. These guys all have their question marks or they have their flaws, but this is the edges that we're trying to show to our people, our patrons in the Discord or out on Twitter, that these are the edges that you have to trim that can get you values into Dynasty or put production into your team and hopefully lead you to winning some money, because that is what we play for this game. So if they have a suppressive value, like the players that I picked out today, go and look at that. Try to exploit that in your league. Go and have conversations with managers and see what you can do at a bargain price.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I appreciate you guys joining us today. This is the Buy Before the Breakout episode. If you joined us, I appreciate it because I didn't announce this at all. We just jumped on, and man, it's awesome that all you guys are in the chat right now. I appreciate it. We are going live for the Dynasty show tonight. That is something that I have planned out. So we have Fourth and Fantasy on. Those guys are definitely going to join us. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to go take a nap, and then I'll see you guys tonight, 10 p.m.
Right on.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Wait a second. You guys still in the chat? Everyone's still here?
They're staying, Jamie. Slash,
you got to stay
there.
You got to stay. Hold on.
Oh, the Breakout Finder is live. That's right. Oh, the Breakout Finder is live. That's right. Oh, the Breakout Finder is live. That's right. A lot of breakout models out there, but we started it all. The best and brightest minds coming up with the definitive breakout probabilities for running backs, wide receivers in this rookie class. It's $5 to download the wide receiver breakouts, the running back breakouts, but also proprietary stats available only on the Breakout Finder, including dynamic score for wide receivers, teammate score, level of competition. You can access the full stat database, plus many advanced metrics from Player Profiler, all there, right there on your phone, in the App Store, on Google Play. And that 2025 class is live.
Man, I love that ad. I
There
love
we
you
go.
guys
Me
too. All right, we'll see you tonight.